Hi Kawan, welcome to EDCready. Today I'm finally doing a full review of this guy. This is the Giantmouse Ace Riv, and the Ace Riv line is a line that is not limited in its production. Typically, in the past, Giantmouse did a lot of limited run products, but this guy is going to be forever in production as long as the company still wants it to be in production. So it's something you can just go onto Blade HQ or DLT Trading just to buy. I got this, I believe, out of DLT Trading, and yeah, they had it shipped over, and bada bing bada boom, here's what I got. Now, let's get into some specs of this guy. This guy comes in at about, I think, $185 in the Micarta version. Although prices may have gone up here in 2022, I got this very early in 2022, before the crazy inflation rates. Let's look at the length of the blade here. We are looking at a length of about 62.3 millimeters, or in inches. There we go, right around 2.5 inches. We have a blade thickness of, see now if I can get my calipers, 0.12 inches, which is very nice, which is 3.2 millimeters. We have a blade height, okay, the total height of the blade right here is coming in at about 27.9 millimeters, or right around 1.1 inches, so that's nice. We have a blade length itself, sorry, a sharpened blade length of about 2.1 inches, 53.6 millimeters. And something that's quite relevant here is actually the size of this finger trowel. So I'm going to measure this out for you guys right here, coming in at about 22.8 millimeters, or 0.88 inches right there. So finger trowel is great for sharpening purposes in this case, and also great for your finger to come here as well. Now let's get the rest of the measurements out of the way. We have a thickness of 0.43 inches right there, and then 11.4 millimeters in terms of thickness, and overall handle length of 85.2 millimeters, or there we go, 3.35 inches, and then a total height in the pocket of, see now, 1.2 inches, or 30 millimeters, which makes it a little bit smaller in the pocket in terms of this height than my Para 3 lightweight. Speaking of Para 3 lightweights, I have a few knives that I'm going to compare this with right here, which are these guys. I'm going to be comparing it to the Para 3 lightweight, because even though this is a much bigger knife, the blade length is actually quite comparable. It's only missing about half an inch, but you do get this kind of finger trowel as well. And another one, which is my other frame lock here, titanium frame lock. This is the ZT-0450CF. Now, how will these compare? I will share with you guys in a little bit towards the end of this review. Next up, we have another dimension that's important, the mass dimension. So let's wait for everything to set up. Putting it on here, we're looking at 65 grams, and once you convert it to Americans, you're gonna get it at about 2.2 ounces. There we go. So now let's get into this review. We're gonna go from tip to butt pretty much, and I'll share with you guys all of my thoughts on this guy right here. So Giantmouse Riv, let's start with the blade. The blade here is made out of Elmax steel, and Elmax steel is a really good steel. I've had no problems when it comes to corrosion resistance. I've carried this guy more than any other knife during the review phase, and used it at work. It holds its edge really well. I'm actually really impressed with Elmax steel. I've never had an Elmax steel knife before until this guy came to my table, and I really enjoyed using it. I've never needed to sharpen it. Then again, I'm not a hard user anyway. So that is the blade steel. The great thing about it is that it is quite corrosion resistant, because after all, it is a stainless steel to my understanding. So great so it's going to be a great low maintenance steel type. Now, what's more important than steel is the blade shape, and this is a fantastic blade shape. Let's go over some of the features here. It is a full flat grind, but also a very high flat grind, and starting at 0.12 inches, it comes to a very keen edge, very thin edge right here. Compare this to this guy. This also starts off at 0.12 inches, but the flat grind doesn't really go up that high. You are getting about half or almost twice as much flat grind as you get on this guy. As a result, this guy very keen, very thin behind the edge. That is very nice. Another thing that's very nice is that the top here is actually rounded And because of the stone wash that they have here, these edges here are also rounded. So it's a very comfortable knife up top and down below, because both of these have that feature for you to place your thumb up here. Speaking of placing your thumb up there, great jimping placement. Now once you grip this in this kind of saber grip, your thumb naturally wants to land here, and then that just adds a nice bit of traction. Compare this with another flipper frame lock where the jimping is back here. If I want to choke up a little bit, I'm going to miss that jimping. This guy, the jimping perfectly placed up here for this kind of very detailed carving kind of work. Really, really like that. Another great detail here is actually within the opening hole. Okay, so sometimes when you get an opening hole, like the Spyderco one, you are gonna get some pretty sharp edges in this hole right here, especially at this corner cut. This corner right there is actually quite sharp. It's not gonna cut you sharp, but it's uncomfortably sharp. So the first time I had my Dragonfly and then this guy, I was actually like shearing off some nail trying to open this guy when I first started getting it. But this guy, if we look here, if we look in there, not only is it chamfered, okay, but because of the finish, it is rounding off those edges a little bit. So you get a very smooth, very nice to open little hole right here for reverse flicking, for thumb flicking, and for just pulling it out like that. So that's very nice. The blade shape itself is very nice. They call this a Warncliffe, if I'm not wrong, but it's not a true Warncliffe. It's not perfectly straight. However, it does curve up a little bit. So sorry, it's not a Warncliffe. It is a sheep's foot, because it looks like the foot of a sheep. So you do get this nice little curve up right there, which is nice if you want to do any kind of these rocking motions, but you still get a nice strong tip here that you can do this kind of piercing and pulling cuts. This is one of my favorite blade shapes out there right now. This kind of sheep's foot blade shape. Do I have any other knife that fits that? No, not right now, but just fantastic. Just my favorite blade shape right now is this blade shape. Just great. So you're gonna get a lot of cutting ability because it's so thin. You're gonna get a lot of pull cuts. The ability to pull cut is right there, which is my favorite kind of cutting, the cutting that I use most days. You get nice rounding on the top here, nice jimping at the top here, nice chamfered rounding on the opening hole, and even down here it's nice and smooth, and it's also you get that nice rounding, that softening of the edges because of that stone wash. So you don't get those sharp edges that you see over here and over here compared to the Spyderco, where you are going to feel that little sharp corner, and then you are going to feel that jimping down there. This guy, very smooth and very comfortable in hand when it comes to the blade. Now moving back a little bit, let's talk about this flipper tab. This is a poorly designed flipper tab in the sense that the top, you do have some jimping at the front here, but at the top here is completely smooth. So I do tend to see that I do tend to slip off of that flipper tab, especially if you have any sort of pressure on the lock bar. That is just not going to come out. Holding this guy takes a long time to get used to because you gotta put your fingers right here in the back. I'm really putting it pretty much over the screw at this point, just so that I can get the right purchase to flip it open. Compare that to, in my opinion, the best flipper tab design, which is this guy, the ZTO 450CF. You do have jimping up front, but you also have jimping at the top. So as a result, it's very nice to get a great grip on this guy, even at the top, and do this kind of push down, open method right there. This guy, no. If you're pulling back in the wrong angle, you are gonna slip up. I really wish they just added one little jimping at the top here, right in the middle. It will make this flipping action a lot nicer. By the way, flipping action, once you get it down, it's actually quite nice because the detent is nice and strong. When they moved to their Riyadh factory, when Giantmouse started making their knives in Riyadh, their detents and their fit and finish have gone through so much improvement that this is the result of using a better factory. And then because their quality control has improved so much, their fit and finish has improved so much, this is my first Giantmouse knife that I felt comfortable buying. Okay, moving back a little bit, enough with that flipper tab. Let's talk about the handles right here. You have micarta. They call it a green micarta, but after some wear and tear, it's kind of coming out a little dark brown, which I do fancy quite a lot. You can also see where my oils have actually filled up on the handles a little bit more. I tend to fill up more here than to fill up more on this side. On the back here, you have this kind of very light stone wash, or is it bead blasted? You have this nice matte finish titanium on the back side here. Very nice. As I already mentioned, any pressure on the lock bar, you are not going to be able to flip this guy open at all. You need to have your fingers off of the lock bar on this pocket clip right here. Let's talk about the hardware. The hardware is very nice. It's T8 all the way around. So, and then you can pretty much unscrew it from either side. I've disassembled and reassembled this guy multiple times, and I've pretty much been able to do it from both sides. So very good screws here. They're nice and deep. Okay, they're nice and pronounced as well. As you can see that it pops up a little bit. It's a little proud of the scale, so it's nice and deep, nice and pronounced. All T8 screws, just really well done on the screws. The lock bar itself, see, I just slipped up again. The lock bar itself has a little, let me see if I can show that on camera. It's a little ceramic detent ball. Don't know if you can see it right there, but yeah, it's a nice little ceramic detent ball. But what's very nice about this lockup is that it has a very nice detent ball ramp. So you can check that out from my disassembly. It just makes disengaging this lock a lot smoother, because instead of having something like this guy which has no detent ramp, it's just pretty much a clunk over the tang of the blade. Yeah, see that? Just a clank over the, just a clanking sound over the detent of the blade. This guy on the other hand has a nice little, you hear that? It's a lot smoother because of that detent ball ramp. Now, do check out my disassembly video for more information and for some visual aesthetics or some visual representation of that. Now, one thing I have to say about this that is pretty negative is that to use this as a thumb flicker, it's possible, but the position of this hole and the position you need to flick it out, you're going to rub your nail on this guy right here. So you can kind of see a tiny bit of wear and tear on that micarta. Luckily it's micarta. I can technically just rub it off and it's almost not noticeable anymore. But you are going to get your thumb, and my hands are small. I wear a size S glove. If you're a bigger thumb person, if your hands are bigger than mine, medium and above, you are going to feel that corner a little bit more once you flick it open. Now, moving back a little bit, the scales themselves, the edges are nicely finished. You know, it is not, some parts of it are chamfered, like this guy here is chamfered. The rest of it are rounded off because of the finish they have here, and even on the micarta, the edges are rounded off, so that's very nice. We have some nice jimping back here. Overall, the jimping on this knife is nice. Whether it's on the flipper tab, although they do need one up here, on the spine of the blade here, the back of the back spacer here, all of them very nice. They do give a lot of good texturing. Another good detail that they have here is the lock bar relief has this nice like scalloping that they have here. Lock bar reliefs, yeah, so the ZT here, completely flat. It does its job well, but it's just completely flat with no real detail back there. But this guy, much nicer. Just look at that, beautiful. Moving back to the pocket clip, this pocket clip is pretty good. It's a good wire pocket clip. Spyderco uses wire pocket clips. Let's see now. Quiet Carry use some nice pocket clips as well. And one thing I really like about here is that it's actually round at the back here. Sometimes these wire pocket clips, like on my Dragonfly, like on my Quiet Carry Waypoint, it tends to be a little sharp corner that they just bend. But this guy, nice smooth rounded edges here, and it goes all the way up. So really good pocket clip. Would I have liked it a little bit deeper? Yes, but this is still pretty deep in my opinion. Now, one of my biggest complaints about this knife is the ergonomics. Now, to be completely honest, the ergonomics are great from here to here. This 95% of the knife has great ergonomics. It fits well in hand. The spaces between the finger grooves are very well done. Jimping is very well done. The shape of the knife is very well done. But this final 5% is kind of the part that trips me up. And let me explain that. You have these two corners right here on both the micarta and the titanium side, and then this makes room for the little lanyard hole right there. And this part here is fine, it's nicely rounded, but these corners are a little uncomfortable. When you really grip down on it, you can really feel these two corners kind of digging into your palm right there. It is the only ergonomic problem in a knife that is like possibly perfect in all other aspects. I just really wish that these parts right here didn't exist, where it was just one complete solid run of spine pretty much, just like in this Para 3 lightweight. But because of this corner on both sides, it does like kill that final 5%. Now, this could very much be a hand thing, because where it lands on my hand, right, is right there at the flesh of my palm. If my hand's a little bit bigger, and I've tried holding it as if I had bigger hands, this guy lands right in this empty space right here, and I don't feel it much or at all. If my hands are a little bit smaller even, okay, if you're, let's say you have XS or extra small size hands, you're gripping it and then you're not feeling those corners at all. It's just that my hand, S size glove hands, you really feel those corners. So that's it. Final conclusions. This is a great tiny knife. It's a great like solid feeling knife that wants to go to work kind of feel. Okay, it has the same feeling as something like a let's see now, a Native 5, the Little Native. So the Little Native from Spyderco is a great feeling knife. Basically, if you take the regular Para 3, the G10 version, and then you shrink it down a little bit, you're gonna get a knife that feels like that. In terms of ergonomics, it's great, except this final 5%. In terms of materials, you're gonna get good materials. You're gonna get Elmax steel, which is great. You're gonna get titanium. You can get titanium on both sides. You have the brass version, you have the Micarta version, which is my favorite version that we have here. All in all, a great little knife right here. Now, the only complaints is, as I already mentioned, this is a not very good flipper at all, and I do like my knives to be able to flip well. And just because this jimping is actually designed quite poorly, the smooth flipper tab on top, actually sometimes it even makes this difficult and painful to unlock. To open up. The positioning of the hand matters a lot, so this is not going to be a great flipping knife. It's a great flicking knife to do this. It really locks up nice and strong. Just listen to that lockup. Hold on. Yeah, that's a nice lockup. Yeah. So the lockup goes up around 35%, 35-40%. So that's a great little lockup right there. It's just a great knife that wants to go to work. Now, the only thing that would turn me off about this knife is the size of it, pretty much. But you're kind of going into this knife knowing what size of knife you want. If you want that small, really feels like it's gonna lock up strong and go to work, this is a great option. This is what the CRKT Pilar and Pilar Large wants to be. Like, if the Pilar Large is your basic average day guy, okay, this is like the Chris Evans of that version of the knife. It's just great in many aspects. Now, what kind of person would love this? Well, someone who wants a small knife that feels hardy, that feels good, that feels solid in hand. The kind of person that would not want this is kind of person who likes a little bit smoother lines back here for ergonomics, and someone who just wants something a little bit pokier, something a little bit more, something a little bit pokier, something a little bit longer for their own task. Okay, that's it guys. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay ready.